Welcome back to the Midnight Who Show, and tonight I'm going to be reviewing The Flash. Now, this film took a long time to get to the big screen. Now, there has been a lot of controversy around Ezra Miller, and they are the lead of this movie. And I'm not going to talk about that situation in this review because this is about the film and not the actor. Now, this film adapts Flashpoint, and it's definitely a very different take on Flashpoint, and I did really enjoy it. It definitely felt fresh and a little bit different. And this one involves, of course, the classic Flashpoint story. Barry goes back into the past, stops his mother's murder, and this just creates havoc on the timeline. Because now there's a different Bruce Wayne, Michael Keaton, and Supergirl, and there's really no metahumans, and he runs into a past version of themselves. Now, this is not the greatest superhero film of all time. You gotta lower your expectations a bit. Especially, come on, we just got Spider-Verse like 2 weeks ago, And honestly, to me, this is one of the better DC Extended Universe movies. I enjoyed a lot of the humor, the heart, and the story was pretty good. It was a great time watching it on the big screen. And I definitely would recommend watching it on the biggest screen possible, because I think you guys are going to have a blast with this movie if you haven't seen it yet. It's a really good movie. It is going to be definitely worth seeing it. And I know it's hard sometimes to separate the actor and the performance sometimes. One of my favorite parts of this movie was the opening 20 minutes. Now, it was rough at the beginning. I did remember why I'm not a huge fan of Ezra Miller's performance as Barry Allen in the other movies, but once it got really going, I really enjoyed it. This did feel like a classic DC animated Justice League episode, and that was so cool, having Batman, the Flash, and then a little cameo from another DC Extended Universe hero, which I guess I can talk about because technically Funko put it on the pop box, so I guess it's okay to talk about. Wonder Woman. I think it's okay, hopefully. And, Alfred's in this movie too, so that's okay to talk about. But yeah, that was a great opening scene, and I really liked seeing the Batman gadgets. That was so cool. But also the Flash and how they are kind of having to monitor their, calorie consumption and getting enough speed to, of course, save the day. I really like the exploration because we don't get that very often in Flash media, so that was really cool. Now, when we're in this new timeline, I absolutely enjoyed the comedic duo, Barry 1, the current Flash that we've been following since the beginning of the film, and Barry 2, the younger version, who's in college and just enjoying life. I'm just so impressed by how they handled the two, Ezra Millers, and this how that was seamless, the interactions. Such a good job. And I gotta tell you, I've never been a huge fan of Ezra Miller as the Flash. I just thought they were okay, but I gotta tell you, they give an amazing and emotional performance in this film. There's definitely one scene toward the end of the film that just was phenomenal. And this is the best that Ezra has ever given to the role of the Flash. Now, of course, it was awesome to see Michael Keaton on the big screen. That was so good, especially for me. I never saw Michael Keaton's Batman, of course, because that's not my childhood Batman. It was, of course, the Dark Knight trilogy, Bale version. But that was so good. He did a great job in this film. And boy, the action scenes with Batman were phenomenal. All throughout this movie, by the way, action was great. And I really wish we got more of Sasha Calle as Supergirl. I really enjoyed this version of Supergirl. It was great, and I really wanted more, and I'm hoping they stick around for the future, because they did a great job in this film. Now, Zod is not the main villain of the film. It was great to revisit that character and see them again, but the true villain kind of comes toward the last 15 minutes of the film, and it's just okay. Not the greatest kind of villain of all time, but it was very teased throughout the film, but it definitely makes sense of what the villain is, and it all makes sense once you get to it. Now, I think the biggest problem for this film is, of course, the CGI. Now, to me, and the director stated it, and I get what they were going for with a lot of the Speed Force kind of zone, and the CGI definitely looks a little bit wonky. I guess it does make a good stylistic choice to portray the Speed Force like that, and I can at least understand that. But there's other parts where the CGI just look really rough outside of the Speed Force. And it just was not what you kind of would expect from a movie that's been delayed a little bit. You would think the CGI would have been a little bit better in the other parts when it's not Barry's perspective, because I think that's a really creative idea. And another problem in this film, I did not mind them, but there are a few cameos. and they are done in a CGI style. And I think I did enjoy that they did them, but I don't think they went the right route, if that makes sense. I'm not going to spoil what they were, but I'm still kind of mixed on them. But they don't take you out of the entire film because they're only in there for a couple of minutes, and for me, they just go right past. But it was good to kind of see the DC multiverse, because this is what this film was. It's a love letter to DC Comics. Another problem I had with this film is I think the second and a little bit of the third act, there are some really weak moments in them, and I think by the conclusion part, it felt a little bit rushed, and the second act had a little bit more of a slow pace to it, and that's a little bit of a problem. But those are really the biggest issues for me, is a little bit with the pacing. I don't think the story was always perfect, and, of course, the CGI was a little bit questionable in parts. It could have been improved just a little bit. So overall, I did really enjoy The Flash. It is not one of the greatest superhero films of all time, but it is a highly enjoyable love letter to the DC universe. It pays tribute to the last 10 years that we've had, the past movies and television shows, and it kind of starts getting toward the future, but we don't quite know what that is now, of course, because of now James Gunn taking over. But I can see how this film was originally used as just this reset. It definitely tries to clean up a little bit with the DCEU and try to set it off toward a better path. But by this point, I just think the fan base, it's just in a divided time, and it'll be really interesting to see what the future of DC will be. But we got a couple projects coming up. We got Blue Beetle and Aquaman 2, and we'll see how those go. But what did you guys think of The Flash? Did you enjoy it? Did you absolutely hate it? Or did you just not choose to see it due to the controversies? Let me know in the comments below. And of course, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, everyone.